Welcome back to Razmafzar TV. I'm happy to have Bede back on our channel. Hi Bede, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Thank you very much. How is weather here over there in Australia?
We had a few cool days, which was really remarkable. Now it's sitting around in here. It's about 25. See, it's autumn here now, so that the temperatures are starting to drop, but they're going to go up again in a few days, and then we're going to get rain for a few days, which is good. Um, because all the plants like it. There's a purple flowering tree planted around the streets in Sydney at the moment, which we call, well, some people call it Judas tree. And you drive along the streets and there's these huge masses of purple flowers, like 20 feet high and 20 feet across. It's really, really pretty. There's a lot of trees. That's not a native tree. That's a garden tree that they've decided to plant in the streets. But a lot of native trees flower in autumn too, at the end of summer, as the temperature starts to decline. And so there's a lot of trees just covered in masses of white flowers or whatever. It's really quite spectacular in some places.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Today, Bede, we are going to continue with the Russian Museum. This time, we will, because we stopped there, we had other topics to talk about, like horse
Yep.
armor, because of one of
Hmm.
our members asked. So today, we are going to continue with our Russian museums tour. And here,
Excellent.
again, we are in the Hermitage. And we are
Hmm.
going to beautiful Hindustani weapons from India, right?
Yeah.
So that's what it is.
They are
Yes.
some of the best metallurgists. I mean, some of the forging of dagger blades and sword blades. It's just so beautiful. And their armor is
Yeah,
exceptional.
yes. Again, for our viewers, some of these items selectively we already with B talked in the past. For example, when we talked about Indian armor, we just pulled some of these or weapons from this collection. But this time we are going to talk extensively, exclusively about collections of Hermitage, Russian museums on
Mhm.
Indian arms. So look at this one, B. These two.
Oh, yes. Uh, so is that what's called a booch?
Yes, exactly. These are
Yeah,
very
yeah,
beautiful ones and very
yeah,
peculiar Indian, right? This is really
yeah.
interesting.
I love the way that the blade comes out of an elephant's head. The elephants are very similar looking, but they're individual. I mean, each smith had his own
Yes.
ideas.
Let me show to our
Um,
viewers here. That's what bead
yeah,
means. Yes.
yeah, yeah. The kind of combination of sculpture and weapon is
Yes.
a big thing in India.
Yes.
So, see, my problem is my eye keeps getting drawn to the Cyrillic, trying because it's a puzzle for me because I don't speak Russian, and my eyes are looking for a
I
puzzle to
mean, there
solve,
is
and I
an
forget to.
explanation in English, a translation, but this is talking about the shield we are going to see because this is shield
Yeah,
made of
up the
rhinoceros
top of
skin.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But they're really nice. The
Yes.
uh, incised decoration on the blades is really well done, isn't it?
Very well done. Really well done. Yes. And
I've
one of
no
them
idea how they
seems
would.
silverish and one of them seems gilded, right?
Yeah, and even the at the base of the shaft, the gilded one has a gilded knob, and the silver one has a silver knob. It's all
Yes.
en suite. It's yeah, yeah.
Yes.
You wouldn't be seen dead without a
Yes.
matching set. What I don't know how these are used. I've heard of them being used mainly in sacrifices, like the big things from Nepal.
Uh,
Um, but that they do look as though you could use them as a proper weapon. I just don't know how. They certainly would cut, and in theory, you could stab with them, but that point is really broad. I think it would take a lot of effort to stab anything with it. But cutting, I think they could do a really good job of that.
Look at the
Did that?
floral design, very intricate.
Yeah, it's beautifully done. And where it's like in the big part of the design, even though it is more or less repetitive, it doesn't look repetitive. It
Mm-mm.
looks like just a natural growth of
Yes.
leaves and flowers. It's more obvious in the slim band at the top that it's
Yes.
following a formula. But even there are little variations in each leaf because it's all individual.
Yes.
Very nicely done.
Pete, look at the elephant. It's very, all features
It's
are very,
happy. It's
yeah,
a happy looking elephant. Perhaps it's got something to eat in its trunk. It's just about to put
yeah,
in its mouth. Oh dear.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh, that looks nice.
yeah,
Oh, yes. We've got all kinds of things here.
yes,
The dagger on the bottom left is a Chilano, is it? Something
yes,
like that.
that's
Then
right.
we've got Qatar. Then we've got a Tulwa with a
Yes,
really nice looking blade. That looks as though it's got a lot of work on it.
yes,
The disc pommel looks very solid too.
yes,
So probably good
yes.
for
Very
striking.
intricate.
Hmm.
Look at this, Pete.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, and look, it's carried down on the blade in the same style. So really high grade Kofgari work.
Very high grade.
Yeah. This is a thing that hasn't been lost,
Yes,
amazingly.
yes,
You would think so, but they still know how to do it. Is
yes,
that an inscription there
yes.
in
It says, La
yeah.
fata illa Ali, la saif illa Zulfagar.
Oh, right, yeah.
So there is no
Definitely like
sword, excuse me, there is no young brave man but Ali. There is no
that. Mhm.
sword but Zulfagar. Yes,
Yeah. Classic.
yes,
It's a very solid looking blade. I mean, it's totally inlaid with gold and everything, but it looks like a blade that could seriously
yes,
work. I also like the pommel is almost like a hat with a turned up
yes.
brim.
It is,
I
yes,
know I know from using these swords that pommel shape is very important.
yes,
That looks like a good one. That looks like it'd be a really comfortable sword. I mean, for a person with a small hand like mine. Um, people
very nice.
uh people with bigger hands
Yeah,
have more trouble with these than I do.
yes,
Uh,
very nice one.
yeah, it's beautifully done.
So you see,
Oh,
Pete,
look at that
the
blade.
blade is very interesting shape. The way Kuftagari is done on it, gold overlay.
Yeah, and it's done in individual square registers.
Yes,
I'm getting the impression by the shadows that that's a got a large shallow fuller down the
yes,
blade. Is it? Am I right? Is it kind of like
yes, yes,
curved like
that's
that?
right.
Oh,
Yes.
for some reason I've disappeared. Uh, oh, wait a minute. Maybe that's what I should do. Ah, that's where I am. I like to have my picture there so I notice when my face goes out of frame. Because I tend to lean down and look really carefully at these
Yeah,
things because they're often, as I said to you before, these
yes,
are things I haven't got to see, and it's really amazing when you get up at close, like these photographs are
yes,
allowing us to do, and see the quality. Because again, as you've said in the past, many of these are gifts to the Tsar. Now, in this case, maybe from Maharajas in
yes,
India,
yes.
um, and these are the best quality stuff that
Best quality.
was available at the time. I think.
Someone wrote on this. How do you guys? Why do you always say, "Oh, they're gifts to the SARS because Russians conquered and colonized and so on, guys?" And I said, "Look, if you go, we are going to talk about it at BEAT as well. There is another museum in St. Petersburg, Artillery and Engineering Museum, and they have lots of weapons. And one of them is our colleague, Mr. Gromov,
Mm.
Andrew. Andre is a friend, and I have also published with him. Very nice scholar, and he already pointed out many of the weapons there are, like taken as a booty, or they
Yeah,
were
yeah,
looted from in wars against Iran, Persians, or Ottomans, or in Caucasus campaigns. They say,
yeah, yeah.
they say, and they
And
are there.
Central Asia.
They are there. These things you see, they have all papers, guys. These are not, and I
Yeah,
said, guys, these have papers. It's not that they want to hide the fact. If you go to other museums in Russia, they say it. They were looted. Yes, they
yeah,
say it. But
yeah,
these ones,
yeah,
and then besides, guys, Look, you go to a museum, now forget all these paperwork because someone said, oh, how do I know if this paper is correct? Guys, the sheer quality of Hermitage Museum, of all these weapons we have seen, these are
Mhm.
certainly, with that amount, is not used by regular soldiers on the battlefield.
Oh, and the other thing, as far as the paperwork goes, um, there was no incentive to falsify it
Yeah,
because they were quite proud to say we captured this one in battle, or
yes,
when this
exactly.
place fell. They didn't have, they weren't trying to kind of create a trail of provenance. The provenance, the documents are just this is going into this collection now. It's a gift from such and such.
Yeah,
Many cases from Iran, Fatali Shah, and you, they're not trying to hide anything.
yeah,
What happens today. What happened back then, they had a different mindset in terms of taking something in battle. They would have been more proud of that than getting a gift. So they would be more likely to
yes,
falsify that than they would be to falsify and the Maharaja of wherever gave this to us. Of course, a Indian ruler giving a gift to the Tsar was basically um, a method of insulting the British without being insulting. It's
yes,
saying, oh, yeah, well, there are other major empires, and we're quite friendly with this one
yes,
because we gave them nice gifts. And
yes,
giving gifts is a thing. I mean, at the time, even going back to the 14th century, people were exchanging gifts between kingdoms because it was a normal thing. Today, not so normal.
Today, yes, is different, right? And
Everything is different.
yes, look at these ones, Pete.
Oh, Patan. I see. So we've got two katas, a pata, and one of those swords you rest your arm on when you're sitting. Uh, they call them in English fakir's crutches,
Yes,
by which fakir being a holy man and crutch being something you lean on. Uh, I've seen a couple of those because the blades are quite short because you're meant to be able to sit on the ground with the
yes,
blade under your arm. Um, on the other hand, the blades on patas are always very long,
always.
and and sometimes European blades that have been repurposed.
Yes,
Um, because when a style of blade went out of style in Europe,
yeah,
like broadswords, like 17th, 18th century broadswords,
yes,
um, they shipped the blades off to India. The Indians
yeah,
just took apart the sword, put it back
yeah,
together in a style they liked.
yes,
I mean, it wasn't. It was quite practical. Of course, the I've read. I don't know how accurate this is, but I've read that despite the huge production of weapons in India in the 18th and 19th centuries and somewhat earlier, uh, the demand was higher than local production could cover. That's why they started importing European blades.
yes,
And they liked some of the European blades. They really liked. They liked because their design of blades was more edge hardened, which is like the Japanese did. But the spring hardened European blades they quite liked, and they developed different techniques for using them.
yes,
Not the same as the European ones, but homegrown techniques. And this is, I think, uh, there was kind of like they were fairly open minded about new ideas,
yes,
despite the fact that we're always told, oh, they didn't want to do this, they didn't want to do that. But the um, the rebellion when the sepoys revolted about the cartridges.
yes,
They didn't want to try anything new. They were afraid they would be contaminated. Um, no, they were prepared to try new things. They just wanted to do it themselves, not have it shoved down their throat by
yes,
an alien conqueror.
yes.
But yeah, they're nice. They're well
Very
made.
nice, very nice. And now look at this
Oh,
armor,
this
Pete.
isn't that pretty.
Yes,
So we have
yes,
what I was taught to call Ganga Jamni, where you use different coloured male rings to make patterns.
yes,
Um, we've got a nasal that ends in a steel copy of a turban ornament,
Yes.
which I think is rather sarpech in is what
Yes.
I think the Moguls called it.
You know what is
We've
so
got
interesting about that beat? This has damogak, as okay, I use the Persian word. I don't know the Indian ones. This is
yeah,
damogak, nasal, and jaw pari, feather holders, but they're in one. You see that? Together.
yeah,
That
it's
looks
all
not
made
very
in
good.
one piece, and
Yeah,
then they've got a pierced piece that sits behind it,
yeah, that's
which
right.
I think is yeah, it's really again, this is showing the skill and metalwork that they had there. The
Yes,
other thing that I like is the handguards from the Bazuband.
yes, yes,
They when you do a full armor of this, they call it coat of a thousand nails.
yes,
Um, whether it was normally with a male lining, I don't know.
yeah,
I mean, some of them were purely decorative, but often the nails were decorative, but underneath there was good, strong mail and a bit of padding.
yes,
Um, the Charina seems very, how can I say, restrained. There's no kind of curving for the neck or anything like this. It's sitting down here, so
yeah.
you could bend right over without it hitting you in the throat or anything. Um, looks solid.
Ah,
Looks very solid.
very solid. Yes,
And I think you can tell it sits above the navel,
yeah,
so you can bend over without it doesn't it's European plate armor was the same. They can they came in at the true waist, which is where your navel is, so that when you bent over it didn't stick into you.
yeah.
People who got into reenactment maybe 30 years ago and started trying to make plate armor, the first thing they found out was if you make it look like it does in the movies, you can't bend over. You have to go and look at the stuff in
Ah, yes.
museums.
Okay. Good point. Good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good point.
But it's really, really nicely done. See,
Very.
normally that kind of male shirt would be front opening, but it doesn't. It appears to be a pullover one.
Just
Um,
one thing. It's important, but we are going to talk about it once the book is published and the new collection of additional items of Mr. Garashi. And he bought them from a private museum in Iran, in Ghazvin, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Anyhow, and they are Persian male, has been there for generations in a family.
mhm.
Some of them are front opening, and some of them you put it over your head.
Yeah,
Persian man. And
that
this is
that makes
important for
perfect
us.
sense.
Do you know why it's important for us, Pete? Because I saw them in miniatures as we talked about them, but so far, those which I have handled in Iranian museums, they were all front opening. So when you
Mhm.
find an artifact which has been there for
Yeah,
generations and now over your head, say, great. Now we have not only in miniatures, we have one also, or not one, three in
yeah,
real extant examples.
yeah. I think that's really important that we you're able to
Yes,
have a correspondence between real artifacts
yes,
and illustrations because we all know that the illustrations are then I was going to say impressions, but they're not even that because a lot of the time they're copying earlier works and they've got formula and stylistic things that they want to put in. They're not realistic, even though they've got real um, uh, details when they show real details, but they're not trying to paint like Michelangelo. They've got a whole different style. And particularly we look at miniature paintings that go from, maybe 1200 to 1900. That's a long time to be painting.
yes,
And
yes,
the styles change,
yes,
as does the armor. I
yes.
like, I'm not so, I mean, the fact that you've got this little piece over your face, but it doesn't seem to be anywhere to put it if you want your face there. It doesn't seem to go anywhere.
That's interesting. The opening in this Indian armor, right, like this,
Hmm. I wonder if
makes
it.
you look like Joker in Batman.
Oh yeah, yeah, big smile. Yeah, a
Yeah,
very very sinister smile.
yeah,
Yeah, I've seen these in a number of armors, and it always puzzled me uh, because if you're riding a horse, wouldn't it flap against your face? So maybe they rolled it up and tied it up or something when
Yeah.
they. I mean, it's the purpose of having mail in front of the face is usually to stop arrows, long distance
Yes,
arrows,
yes,
and short distance slashes from swords that aren't fully
yes. That's right.
um, articulated. I saw someone the other day talking about, well, you can when you wind up and stab with a spear or hit with a sword, you can get a lot of force into it. But in a battle, you can't do that because the minute you start to wind up, somebody stabs you because you've exposed part of your body. And this is very true. I noticed there's a kind of Kanjali down to the
Yes.
right there.
Let me show it to our viewers here. Here, this one. Why is it not working? This one, yes, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. There are kind of laid down stabbing dagger. That big um pommel goes over the top of your hand,
Yeah,
and it gives you a lot of control.
yeah,
I Look, these are bone or ivory covered. I've got a bone covered one. I don't think they're particularly strong against a cut. Like they're not really to protect you. They do a bit. I think it's because it gives you much more control of the blade. Because these, again, this is I had a martial artist friend, and he got to play with a couple of these, really much higher quality than mine. And his immediate response was that they are designed to be held with the curve that way because then you can put the point wherever you want.
yeah,
And I pointed out some of them have a big steel ball on the top of the pommel, which I think would be very good for hitting people. Like if you didn't want to kill them, you could knock them out pretty easily. But yeah, they're again the fluting in the blade, the fullers, the ribs.
yes,
This is all part of the art. I
yes,
mean, it's not 100% necessary, but it makes a much better looking weapon.
yes, absolutely. So we have here a better close up. Look how tight the
Oh
weaving
yeah,
is.
yeah.
Yes,
My experience with Indian mail. I'll have to have a look at. I've got a helmet sitting on a bookcase over there, and it's got an old male aventail. The helmet isn't old. The helmet was made in the late 1900s, I think. Uh, but but the aventail is off one of these armors out of one of the arsenals that had been sealed for 400 years because there were stray bits of stuff. So we're not going to waste it. We'll just put it onto a helmet.
I need to
And
say something, excuse me, regarding this because we talked about it
yeah,
and I would like to mention it again. In today's era, there are many good male armor makers, right?
mhm,
And mostly, okay, they do cheaper ones for Taziyeh, those Ashura celebration. And then they
mhm.
put it in the shops. You can find many, even in Tehran, Isfahan, Shiraz, everywhere you go, outside. And they're hanging. And then you see if they were hanging for a long period of time, the butted mail are opened, right?
Yeah,
If you
yeah,
hold it in your hand, the new ones, and pull it, they open. Now, I
mhm.
handled many mail, riveted definitely you can, but butted mail as well in Iranian museums. Not a single one in Iranian museums, and they're hanging. They open, and once you have them in your hand, as I had with gloves, you pull, they don't open.
yeah,
That's the
yeah,
difference between butted male, old one, and the newly made. So
yeah.
why do I say that?
Well,
These reenactors go and say, "Oh, butted male, butted," because they see it in pictures. Guys, this is not the same butted male as is made in the reproduction market. Those cheap ones. I need to stress this again and again. Please, Pete. Excuse me. I just needed to mention that.
yeah. Well, we mentioned this once before.
Yes.
If you harden butted mail, it is a different beast.
Yes. Yes.
And the advantage. Look, I don't know. They might not have learned how to harden butted mail until they were making mail with higher carbon content in the steel,
Yes.
because most mail up until the Renaissance in Europe and probably 100 years later in Turkey was made from what we'd call mild steel,
Yes.
low carbon steel, and therefore making buttered mail out of it, it does what modern buttered mail does. It pulls apart. But eventually they started. making mail out of steel wire that could be hardened,
Yes.
both riveted and butted. And to me, you're describing hardened um, steel mail
Yes.
in bud mail. Obviously, in riveted mail, it's even stronger.
Yes.
But see,
Definitely.
Japanese mail was never riveted except when they were trying to copy European mail.
Yes.
And sometimes they had single rings and sometimes they had rings that wrapped around twice and whatever, but they hardened the mail.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I think it wasn't uncommon. It's just not something that comes up very often because when people in modern times are criticizing buttered mail, they're criticizing buttered mail made out of mild steel.
Yes. Yes.
And they're right to criticize that. But when people started reconstructing mail for fun, as opposed to museums, um, there was a limited number of things they could make it out of, and the one of the easiest ones was fencing wire or
Yes.
binding wire, and that is very soft. Made it easy to make the rings and cut
Yes.
them, but it wasn't ultimately satisfactory.
Yes.
But now
Yes. Yes. Yes.
it's a different world.
Yes. So we see the same armor from a different angle beat here?
Yeah, that's you can see the where the cha'ina pieces are attached to each other by two straps.
Yeah.
Um, the basil band are completely covered by the long mail sleeves.
Yeah.
You just see the bit down there that goes around
Yes.
there. You can't really, but you can see through the mail. You can see the top of the basil
Yes.
band kind
Yes.
of reflecting the light.
Yes. Easy. Yeah.
But see this in the 18th and 19th centuries,
Yes.
this would have been a fairly good armor. It protected you well against swords
Yes. Definitely.
and spears,
Yes.
and probably the Cha'ina would protect you against pistol shot or long
Yes.
distance musket shot.
Yes.
But of course, you had to be lucky enough that it hit the Cha'ina. But on the other hand, if it hit your body where the Cha'ina covers, and you didn't have the Cha'ina, then you would have serious internal injuries
Yeah. Yeah.
if
Absolutely.
it didn't go all the way through you. Oh,
So
Zaganut.